So we made a decision to get together and wanted to kind of share your story of selling for 2 years now, more than 100 homes a year. And before that, a substantial amount. And not to impress, but really just that we believe it could help somebody else out there who wants to be in the right environment, learn from you, learn from your consistency, your habits, spotlight all of that to have an idea of like really what's achievable for someone.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to reiterate that I'm just like you. I'm just a normal person. I'm just a realtor. I just wanted to reiterate that
Yeah.
it's not coming from an ego standpoint, but if you're going to do 100 transactions, you're almost going to learn 100 lessons, and it is you are being a bad fiduciary of your knowledge if you're not helping others with what you learned along the way. So that's my goal in sitting down to chat today, is just to pass along as much information as I can to help others, so that the next person trying to do something big can get there easier versus harder.
Right. And that's even, I think, what both of us do in the world is try to fast track and shortcut other people's successes by learning from mistakes made, lessons learned in doing this number of transactions or real estate at this level.
Yeah, you're either an innovator or an imitator. And, I'd love to say that I'm innovative, and I think in some ways I am. But if it's about speed or time, imitation, they say, is one of the greatest forms of flattery, right? And I have no problem being an imitator or people that imitate me. The good things that I do. Let me repeat that.
Just the good things.
Yes, please.
And I love it because I think when I first met you, I really saw a part of me could relate to you in being someone who hustled, who built, who showed up for so many people long before, the successes or it's earned, and made mistakes and all of those things. So I think that it's awesome that we get to spend this time together just talking about you. Might trigger a couple things from even when I did that myself. Not 100, 67 was my goal.
It's still a lot.
But a lot. But I think it is just sharing that for other people. And also for those who want to work with and be an environment, right? Because a lot of it is being in that right environment around people. And that's what fuels all of this, is whether you're watching this, consuming it, listening to it, thinking about how can I grow as a salesperson or as a business person? How can I lead? How can I do meaningful things in this world that I'm going to feel great about, I think. So the first question, before we get into kind of the numbers and the logistics and thinking about it, I think that everybody should know the person behind. You have this reputation of the houses that you've sold and how much you do, and being just this amazing man and great person who's always willing to help somebody else. So, who are you at a core? Who's Caleb Carlson?
Just remember,
not an ego.
I'm just a normal person.
You are a person.
I happen to really like helping others and selling real estate. So that's it from a core. I'm a husband, father. What I've used at times to describe myself is I'm a ship builder with a P, ship builder. I build relationships, and I just so happen to also sell real estate, and your relationships are your capital. So that's kind of my elevator pitch of who I am, what I do.
Okay. But where does that come from? The relationship is a capital. Where did that at a core? What's that about?
I think at a very young age, I was pushed to relate and fit in and have common ground. Had an amazing childhood, but, I didn't also know that we were living on food stamps and, 6 people in a 2-bedroom house and moving around for different reasons and this and that, and constantly kind of starting over. And, I would never think of it as trauma until, you sit today and you process it. And I was like, yeah, that was probably hard for, a young kid to have to go through. I want to reiterate, love my childhood, had a great childhood, was taught work ethic at a very young age. But going through all those changes forced me to be able to find common ground with others, and building a relationship with them made my life easier. It made my life more enjoyable.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to think about making your life more enjoyable. And even that is a really profound statement versus a lot of people I think I see, especially today, think about me and how can I win? How can I be successful? Instead of kind of how can we, or in a relationship. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Zig Ziglar saying, right? Help everyone else get what they want, and you'll never want for everything. That's seems to be a fairly true statement for people who are forward-thinking, abundance mindsets, positive people. They'll generally agree with that, I think.
I agree. If that's what was the catalyst for who you are, what continues to keep you going at this level?
That's a great question, and it is different, right? It went from finding common ground and stability to now I really like winning. I really like, I don't want to use the word success. I like a win. And a win usually means all parties involved feel good, whether it's with your clients, your family, your friends, whatever. I really like winning. And capitalizing off of a really good relationship that ends up into hopefully a fantastic real estate transaction is super fun for me.
I love that. I think that I talk about that a lot when I was speaking quite frequently too, is I love winning from a very young age, just competitive, right? Board games, card games at home. I don't care. Like just in school, I wanted to be successful. But winning turned into, like you said, it can be something so powerful mentally of how do I help someone get what they want? How do I get them this house? How do I help them win? Because ultimately, kind of like you said with Zig Ziglar, when other people feel like they won, first of all, it's a really rewarding feeling to have somebody feel that way, but it's and it's meaningful, right? And then also for yourself, it's really compelling to want to do it again. It gets a little addictive.
It can be.
Yeah.
There's worse things to be addicted to. You definitely want to, make
Yeah.
sure you're not, overindulging in winning, if you will, because there's also value in peace as well. But there are definitely worse things to be addicted to. That's for sure.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
I guess it was a good one to pick, but it is something that I think, and it can be selfless and also selfish. Like you said, you can turn it both ways, but that's the way most things are, I think, in this world, is that anything can be used for good or can be misused, right, for bad. And as long as just kind of knowing the difference. But I think that's good. So it's kind of winning and that keeps you going.
That would be the most recent reason to continue, striving.
Yeah. And I think that for myself, like a part of that growth is winning for clients, seeing other people winning, seeing an organization winning. But I mean, just all of it, right? Seeing more and more people get served and helped. And like you said, whether it's an agent to a client, that is an awesome thing to do in this world. Yeah. Awesome. So did you ever imagine, like I know you're on track this year for 130?
Something maybe? Like that could happen for sure.
Could happen.
Yeah.
So did you ever imagine that when you started?
No, I think my first goal was 30, and I, missed it a couple times. And I actually vividly remember sitting in my brick and mortar office at the time, and I had like a County Road 40 sign at my desk, and I would take a notch every time I was able to get one under contract. And it just seemed like such a big goal to me at the time. Yeah. I never thought 100 was possible. And now I'm realizing, how small it is in comparison to what I feel like I still could change or could continue to improve on.
So where do you think people start? Like, most people in your experience and helping a lot of other agents now too.
Sure.
Where what do you tell them then?
I'm usually pretty big on reverse engineering, like what's your income need or what's your goal for helping others? Let's reverse engineer that and see how many conversations it's going to take for you to get those relationships or those contracts. I think that's usually where I start with people. So many people start also with misconceptions on what the business is. It's a very romanticized industry. And I try to get them as quick as I can from romanticism to realism of, all right, roll up your sleeves. This is going to be some work to get started. So usually it's a mixture of those two items. It depends on, your personality and your openness and willingness to change or to growth or to prodding, whatever it takes.
Okay, so I'm a new agent, and is it you reverse engineer it based on income? But what do you think? What do you see? Like I see so many people that say, "Do you want to sell 1 a month or 2 a month or getting to 3 a month?" The thing is that most of our goals, they're big, they're ambitious, they're kind of cloud-like, and it's kind of breaking them down into like what the daily small things are that you need to do to make it happen. And it starts with, like you said, you have to start with something, whether it's an income or whatnot.
Most people get into real estate as a side hustle or as a, hey, I want to replace my current job. So I work XYZ as a manager. I make $65,000 a year. That to me means I need to sell 7 to 8 homes to replace that. And that's what they're thinking they'd like to do.
It seems really easy. It's just 7 or 8 homes.
It seems
how
very.
Hard can that be?
it seems very easy. I just closed a transaction with someone that the relationship was initially formed 7 years ago. So all that work you're doing on the front end is really just to pay yourself on the back end. So part of what we're engineering as well is what's going to happen long term and what do you need to survive as you're building your brand to where you're naturally attracting clients.
And so when you look back and thinking about, like you said, it's fascinating. My story is a little bit different thinking. I never thought even 30, which is crazy because when I started, I think I thought like 12, like one a month. And
One a
I don't
month.
even know where it came from. Just I think a lot of people come in with that, right? If I
Mhm.
just sold one a month,
One a month would be X amount of money. I'd be totally fine.
I'd be fine.
Yep.
And then that didn't happen. Like I think my first year was like 4, which
I
was
sold
crazy.
one my
Okay.
first year.
Okay.
So.
Okay, just to show, like, right?
Mhm.
I love that. Like
Mhm.
what you're doing, what I'm doing, but that's where you start, right?
Mhm.
And then I think, like you said, I think the second year might have even been like 17, and then it compounded. Like you said,
Mhm.
if you're building the relationships, if you're doing those right things, and you have maybe, like I said, we'll unpack all that. Then you get to that level. But I love that. But how about, what do you think has changed most in the last 5 years in real estate?
I think it's never been easier to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So I struggle with excuses or negativity given the amount of tools, the amount of more tools, you have access to. You talk to anybody, 10 years or older in the business, many of them were given phone books.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So personally, I think it's never been easier to do more. And that's why also I think, your quote unquote top producing agents are taking more of the market share because they have the skill and the experience, and they have what you said earlier, the compound effect of all the touches that they've been making throughout. So that's my response to that.
Mm-hmm. And for you, like, I love that, and I think it's true. I agree with you. I mean, I guess to piggyback on that, especially today, it seems so easy to me that some days I contemplate getting back into production because not that it's not easy, but like you said, it's easier than ever to do a lot with all the help and tools and systems and tech that can allow you to really be leveraged versus, like you said, I came from the era of like you had to go out and create it. There was no internet, there was no leads, there was no
and you still
systems,
can.
and, like, you still can
Go out and create it. It's
that.
just never been easier.
It's never been
It's
easier.
never been easier with the technology and the way the world works now. You still have to go create it, but you have so many different options to generate interest or to create a relationship or dance your way through the pandemic into, a massive 6-figure income in real estate, right? Like that wasn't a thing prior to that. But you have to still show up. You have to still do the work.
Yeah. So I think I wanted to take this time to like get to know you and kind of what drives you. And I know we talked about the relationships, we talked about winning and what's possible. And when you think back to, I guess the other point I wanted to make is like when you had that sign and you're making those hashtags of getting to, 40, right?
40.
It was 40
Yep.
deals.
I think
with
it was
the
my
40.
fourth year, I think. Yep.
Okay. So in those last 5 years then, so I was like, what has changed the most for you as far as what drives you, or even who you are today versus who you were when you had that sign and making those marks?
The biggest thing that I think has changed is I used to keep my goals very private. My broker would know, my wife would know, maybe one of my couple close friends would know. I would keep my goals extremely private. And I was in a mastermind with some people not in real estate, other business owners, entrepreneurs. And for about 9 months, they consistently were like, hey, you should show more of what you're doing. You need to show proof of your success, not from a point of ego, but from almost like professionalism, a resume. And that really forced me to grow. Once I started showing people what I was doing, then expectations of me would change, expectations of myself would change. So the biggest thing different between year 1 and year 5 versus year 5 to where I am now, year 10, is allowing people to know, hey, I'm trying to sell 100 plus homes, not from an ego, but because it's very challenging and I want to push myself. And as a byproduct of that, I end up getting to help more people. There's lots of really good intrinsic things from helping others. And like we talked about earlier, the winning aspect.
Yeah. And I love it because one of the things I learned when I took that same step is how many people want to rally and help you achieve that when you make it more public. But the thought to me, for me, was, but if I put that out there and I don't achieve it, then everyone will know I'm a failure, or everyone will know I can't do it, and I'll feel like an imposter, right? I don't know if you had that at all, what your reason was for keeping it more private.
For sure. I mean, that's a reason to not have a public goal. Controversial guy right now, Elon Musk, said, hey, try to get your 5-year goal done in 1 year. You're probably going to fail.
Yeah.
You're probably going to fail, but like you'll get more done than you would have done if you just set a 1-year goal. And whether you make that public or not, you decide if you're the person that needs that kind of gas on your fire or if you can do it intrinsically on your own.
Yeah, We were having a year like that. I talked about it today where I took a 5-year goal, really crazy, packed it into 5 years. Even, like I said, I use AI. ChatGPT told me like that is really almost like unachievable. Like you should be concerned that this is a big goal. And yet we're on track, just barely off. But it is amazing. Like if you, and it isn't an Elon Musk type
Shoot for
goal.
the star.
Sure, I could shoot higher, but
aim for the moon, land in the stars, or whatever the saying is, right?
Exactly. Okay, so it was a little bit different for you making them public. So you agree with like probably other people rallying to help you, and like what else? I feel like we haven't quite, just to be super clear on what was the reason for doing that.
I didn't know it at the time, but I was showing proof of success or proof over a promise. Hey, I'm trust me, I'm really good at this. That's really difficult for someone to say and for someone to believe, versus here's the proof, here's my resume, whether it was on a dining room table on a piece of paper or on social media, or stats from Real Trends or whatever. Like here's the proof, like this, and that was easier for someone to be sold on versus something I'm not comfortable with. Is trust me, I promise you, I'm really,
I can do this.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Is it's much easier to have yourself sold than to sell yourself. If depending on your personality type, which as you can tell, I am just a regular dude, just selling real estate.
I love it. Okay. So what you're saying, I get it. So what you're saying is maybe not so much putting out like I want to sell 100 homes. I mean that's part of it, but you're also talking about the part of sharing it with the public, like as far as what you're trying to do, or more what you've done, like the proof of concept and proof of success.
A little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
It gets people to tie in and check your progress.
Yeah.
Right. Where are you at?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a conversation. It's a relationship.
And they're bringing it up instead of me, and I'm doing my best at slowly showing more of it, while also just still trying to protect, who I think I am as a person and my ego.
And I remember even as a small team I'll never forget the year we wanted to help 100 people, which you've done yourself, but by yourself, but not for ego, just, just put that out. But sure. I think it's awesome that like, I remember how scared everyone was. I'm like, we should start telling people. Let's just tell everybody that we meet, every buyer meeting, every seller meeting. Our goal this year is to help 100 families. Our goal this year is to help. That's where it started out of. Now it's over 500, right? Or whether it's one a day or whatever it is. And it was a kind of a nerve-wracking. People weren't sure. Are they going to think, especially I think in Minnesota, is that ego? Because a lot of people don't. Like they're humble and they're really doing this for the reasons of wanting to help somebody else. But it was so powerful, and people are like, "Oh wow!" Right? I mean, they're like, "That's awesome."
Your A players become A+ players, and it's because you gave them an opportunity to help, and they want to reciprocate how much you help them. So that was one of the first things I noticed.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so last thing as we talk about kind of wrapping up, you being a realtor, like, or even like what it relates to in other people being realtors. Like, how would you describe realtors? Like, hey, I'm just like you. I'm fill in the blank.
Yeah, I'm just like you. I think about the fact that I should be prospecting right now. I consistently think, I should probably be prospecting. I've had that hammered into my head by every single broker I've ever had, right? Ego is not your amigo, right? It's one of my favorite sayings. You're only as good as your last sale. No one cares, right? Like things like that is where I find common ground. And I was just talking to an agent who works with me, and even just simple things like, hey, here's another angle. And, there was actually ironically talking about commissions and all the changes, and this is how I do it. And that happened to help him. And that felt like a big win too.
Yeah. I just spent 35 minutes walking through CMA or in pricing houses. And someone's like, has been doing it a while. And it's like, I've never learned that. I never learned these basics. You unlocked it for me. It makes sense. I feel so much better tonight. Like those are awesome things. Yeah. And what has still is there anything that's changed, or is there anything that's still central to your success, or what hasn't changed? What has been consistent since the start of your career to still today, what you're doing in the world?
At a very early on, maybe first or second year in real estate, the two best pieces of advice I ever got was when in doubt, disclose. And I was lucky enough to run into some early Ricky Carruth content, which was always keep the relationship over the transaction, and those two things kind of always have kind of been North Stars for me. And that's something that I'm consistently still trying to do, whether it's, hey, I'd really love to work with you, or I'd really like to interact with you more, but I'm not going to put that transactional relationship over our one-to-one friend-to-friend relationship.
Great words of wisdom.
And they're not mine. I just imitated them.
Yeah. But like you said, I think we all need to have something to aspire or a benchmark or emulate, want to be, whatever it is. And that's the point of even sharing the story, right? Is to take something from it and to be that and to try to step into that. What would that look like until you evolve yourself, right? And that changes too. Like I'm sure for you, I always tell this story that when I worked at Remax, I didn't know what. I kind of needed a goal, and I picked somebody on the top 25. And he was number 10. And at that time, I was like, okay, I'm just going to pick that name. And for years, that was my name. That was my benchmark, right? And I'd watch what he did, and I tried to just do my version of it. And then when you pass it, you pick a new one.
Yeah. It's like climbing. You climb any mountain, and then you realize, like, oh man, like this was amazing to reflect on. I need to climb another mountain.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I got to do a bigger one. Right. So, and bigger doesn't necessarily need to be more transactions, but it needs to be bigger as far as it's something that's challenging you.
I love that.
And you get motivated intrinsically from.
I love that because, like, I agree 100% sometimes, and that's the thing. And I've worked and coached some people too, agents, where they believe that the only path is bigger, more, higher GCI, higher transactions, and that's not always the answer. And it doesn't mean that you can't still be challenged and still can't grow, but just what is that mountain?